Wow, I got a whole intro today. That was kind of fun. Good morning. Thanks again for letting me be here. Hope everybody's doing okay. Again, the weather's nice. For those of you that like that cold stuff, I'm already ready for summer, so I'm one of those wimps. Christina told me it was going to be cold this weekend, like really cold, like winter weather kind of stuff. And I said, well, I lived in South Texas for a reason. That's not appropriate. When are we moving south for the winter? So anyway, that's just me. But I'm a downer on the Christmas weather. Sorry. I like Christmas, but not the weather. So I made a friend today. Yeah, we got friends right there. So we just read from Ecclesiastes, and it's Ecclesiastes was written by a guy named Solomon. Solomon was considered the wisest king of all of Israel, probably the wisest guy of all time. And at the end of his days, that was his conclusion, is what we read, that everything comes down to, it's all meaningless unless we come down to the fact that we serve God and him only. Now, how did a guy like Solomon get to that? And that's kind of what we need to talk about today a little bit. Now, before we get to Solomon, though, drama. Anybody here like drama? Like drama in your life? You're like, oh, drama, oh, the drama. I have a little girl, she's 18 months old now, and I'm already starting to see that. Oh, the drama, you get this little piece of dirt off my finger right now, Daddy, that kind of thing. And we experience drama in our life, right? Some of you are like, no, I don't, not me, right? And drama's a big seller, but just this whole, that we have to have meaning and all this stuff and the tension and the lies conflicting, and that's what makes great television shows, the shows that are most popular at my house. Really, I get to control the remote most of the time, so the shows that I watch are a lot of dramas, and of course, because I'm a nerd, my favorite dramas have to do with superheroes, and I'm okay with that. I've already made my peace with that, and if you don't care, I even have a Superman cup today for my coffee. I get it. I like it. My favorite shows right now, Gotham. Each week I'm wondering how in the heck is Detective Gordon going to survive all of this nastiness in Gotham City, and how is he going to become the police commissioner? I don't know, and I have to know week to week. I also watch that other superhero show, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. That's a big, I'm making friends today. This is great. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And each week I'm wondering, man, is Coulson going to be able to figure out what's wrong with him before the alien virus takes over and he's transformed into something horrid, and it's drama. I have to know, you have to know. And we experience this kind of drama in our lives over and over again. We have to know. But at the end of the day, when the show is over, does it really matter? Most of you don't even know who Agent Coulson is. I can see it by the look on your face, right? Could care less. And that's the truth. A lot of times the drama that we engage in, the things that we pursue that give meaning or excitement to our lives, ultimately are meaningless. A waste of time. And we're just kind of doing it, not even sure sometimes why we do these kind of things, why we pursue this kind of drama. Because when we escape for a little bit into those cool superhero dramas, we're escaping from the real life drama that most of us have been facing and still facing and still trying to get to. We still have to deal with our stuff, our junk, right? This means yes, all right? You can nod yes. You don't have to say anything. I'll look at you and know, and then you can pretend, yeah, right? At the end of the day, we have to deal with our real life drama. We want to escape for a bit so that we can forget about our real lives, about the drama in our lives, and we just don't know exactly what is the point a lot of times. What's the point of all of this? Why do we have to deal with all of these things in our lives? What happens to us if we don't understand the purpose in our life? What happens? What is there for us? We don't know the point. We don't understand it. We don't even know a lot of times if there's more to life than this, because the circumstances overwhelm us. The circumstances get all over us, and that's all we can see. You ever been there? Like, oh my goodness, if only. And it's just right here in your face, and you're like, this is too much. My boss is too much. My job is too much. My school is too much. My children are too much. My spouse is just too much. I can't see anything else because the circumstance, the problem is right there. What's the point? If I have to deal with this for the rest of my life, I don't know what the point is. What am I going to do with all of this? Well, Ecclesiastes was written for this purpose, Solomon decided to see if he could figure it out. He's going to pursue everything. Let's try all the different routes that people could possibly do and figure out if there's some point to this suffering, to these circumstances, to these things that we find ourselves in all of the time. You're like, man, Solomon was a glutton for punishment. Yes, he was. No, he's one of those guys. He had it all figured out, but he understood that, we have to pursue this. He wanted to figure it out, so he pursued all of these things. And so today we're going to be in Ecclesiastes chapter 1 most of the time. And we're just going to look at some of these things that he discovered, some of these things that he pursued so that he can figure out what was going on. And as he pursued him, his conclusions, what did he see? What did he see happening here? So Ecclesiastes chapter 1, verse 1, the words of the preacher. The preacher is talking about Solomon here, okay? The son of David, king in Jerusalem. Vanity of vanities, says the preacher. Vanity of vanities, all is vanity. Another translation says meaningless. Meaningless. This is meaningless. What is the point? He said that 5 times right there. I don't get it. Why? Everything. I'm meaningless, right? What does man gain by all the toil and at which he toils under the sun? A generation goes and a generation comes, but the earth remains forever. The sun rises and the sun goes down and hastens to the place where it rises. The man. You got this cycle. It just goes and goes and goes, and life just seems to repeat itself over and over and over again. And man, the sun still comes up, and it's just, I still have to go to work. I still have to toil. I still have all these problems in my life. What's the point? Life just seems useless. And sometimes we feel that way. This is just a useless waste of time and space for us. And Solomon says, I get it. It looks like that. Here's what else he said. Verse 5, the sun rises and the sun goes down and hastens to the place where it rises. The wind blows to the south and goes around to the north. Around and around goes the wind. And on its circuits the wind returns. All streams run to the sea, but the sea is not full. To the place where the streams flow, there they flow again. All things are full of weariness. A man cannot utter it. The eye is not satisfied with seeing, nor the ear filled with hearing. Man, life is like a treadmill. That's the one thing I don't like, just so you know. I hate going to the gym because the only thing that I like to do there is either the treadmill or the what's that bike thing? Yeah, the elliptical machine, right? And after I get off the elliptical machine, I'm still in the same spot where I started. And just so you know, that's a little pointless to me. Someone raised playing sports, when you ran around, you actually had a point. You go get the ball, you kick the ball, or you go grab it and you shoot it in the basket. That makes sense to me. Going to the gym, that seems meaningless. Now some of you are like, no, it's great. Heart rate gets up, you're in shape, you lose weight. Yeah, I get it, I understand. But I'm still in the same spot where I started, right? I understand. Lots of work, and I'm still there. And it just seems sometimes it's just tiresome, working hard, and sometimes we're just going nowhere. Life is like that sometimes. We just feel like we're working and working and working. The wind still blows, and we go like, man, what the heck is this for? We just don't get it. All right? So he continues on. Verse 8 again, all things are full of weariness. A man cannot utter it. The eye is not satisfied with seeing, nor the ear filled with hearing. What has been done is what will be, and what has been done is what will be done. And there is nothing new under the sun. Is there a thing of which it is said, see, this is new? It has been already in the ages before us. He's like, man, I have all the money. I got everything I could ever want. I've bought everything so I could see it all, and it's all the same. It's like eventually you start going to you go to a movie, and you're like, I think I've seen this before, right? Because it's really just a remake of something they made 10 years ago. That's the problem with Spider-Man movies. They just keep remaking the same movie over and over again. And I love Spider-Man, but man, I've seen that movie before, right? And we see these things. We see the life before us, and we see it repeated over and over again. Man, we experience this. And it makes us feel like life just kind of gets this unfulfilling sense. Like, man, if I've already done this, what's the point? If I'm not there, what's the point? It just doesn't fill us up sometimes, right? You get that? Sometimes, so yeah, he fills it in there. All right, verse 11, he says, there is no remembrance of former things, nor will there be any remembrance of later things yet to be among those who come after. He's like, man, this is the most pointless thing of all. Whatever I do now is going to be forgotten. I started for the Texans last week. Next week, I'll be forgotten, right? Ryan, what's his name? And now we have new Ryan, what's his name, all right? We got it. We'll forget the other guy in a couple of weeks and be like, who are we going to draft, right? We forget the things that have gone before. Any record that you might set, someone's going to break it, right? Any book that you might write, someone's going to throw it away. It's just one of those things. It's going to happen. The things that we stake our significance on are not going to be there for us. Life is insignificant. Put your name on a building at the local university. Heck, put it on the new football field at my university. I still don't remember the name of the guy that was there that they named the field after, right? I don't care. It doesn't matter, right? Those things don't matter. They're insignificant. The things that we invest in a lot of times just become so insignificant. And then finally, here's what he said the rest of the chapter. He says, I, the preacher, have been king over Israel in Jerusalem, and I applied my heart to seek and to search out by wisdom all that is done under heaven. It is an unhappy business that God has given to the children of man to be busy with. You're like, man, this is depressing. Good job, guys. You get to work hard. Yay. And I have seen everything that is done under the sun, and behold, all is vanity, a striving after the wind. Anybody here try to catch the wind before? Right? Yeah, it doesn't work, right? What is crooked cannot be made straight, and what is lacking cannot be counted. I said in my heart, I have acquired great wisdom, surpassing all who are over Jerusalem before me, and my heart has had great experience of wisdom and knowledge. And I applied my heart to know wisdom and to know madness and folly. I perceive that this also is but a striving after the wind. For in much wisdom is much vexation, and he who increases knowledge increases sorrow. Man, he just starts off. I've done everything, and it's pointless. What a waste of time. Life is not there for us. It's uncontrollable. Everything, we think that it should be obvious by now, and it just doesn't work out. Anybody ever had a broken relationship? You try to straighten that thing out. It's hard work. Sometimes it doesn't happen. It's just you have to work at it, and life is just out of our control. A problem you just can't fix. Just don't know how to do it. You have no idea how to take over. That's what Solomon's saying. It's like that. Life is like that. It just seems like it just can't quite get it all together. These themes, life is broken, useless, tiresome, unfulfilling, insignificant, all of these things, that's what you're going to see in any good story today. Somebody's trying to overcome one of those problems. I guarantee it. They're going to try to figure out how to make life have some sort of meaning out of the meaninglessness that they see there, the vanity that they see in their life. Because the thing is, y'all, without purpose, life is pointless. A life without purpose is not a life worth living. Because when you remove God from the picture, the options for meaning and purpose become very, very limited. We have to have that there for life to make sense. I was reading another preacher who had quoted all of these different philosophers, famous guys and thinkers and all these famous guys, and every single one of them said something generally like what Bertrand Russell said. Unless you assume a God, the question about life's purpose is meaningless. He's a famous thinker, very much an atheist, and he says, without God, the question, even asking a question about the purpose of life, is a meaningless question. If there is no God, then you're just a random accident. You're just a freak on the evolutionary chain. If you're not created by God, then your life doesn't matter, and there's no significance to it. If you were killed suddenly by some random act of violence today, maybe the air conditioner blew up, and we all, it was horrible. Who would mourn you? Not many. Would they remember your name 100 years from now? No. And that would just be another statistic on the card, right? The thing about life is, without God, it's pointless. If you don't know the purpose of life, you're striving after the wind. Life will continue to be meaningless. So, how do we find that purpose? If you don't know the purpose of life, what are you supposed to do? How is it that you should then live? Well, I got a couple options for you, and let me just tell you the first one doesn't work. First one, make up a purpose. All right? Make up your own. This is called existentialism. It says, I'm a nut, and therefore I am, And everything in my shell exists, and I don't really care about the rest of it, and this is all I'm going to care about is this thing that is within me, all right? Trying to find some meaning in your existence, some belief, just having something to hold on to is the meaning of life. Finding that thing that you're most passionate about and doing that and just pursuing that, that's the way to have purpose in life. It's like, what if your purpose in life is simply just to survive, all right? Just to live, right? That's what The Walking Dead, famous show, that's what that show is about, just surviving. How is it that you can have purpose if the only meaning in life is to just live? And those people are depressing on that show, just so you know. I mean, they're all sad and unhappy. Another way to try to do this, to be a nut on yourself, is to say that my only purpose in life is to perpetuate life. Basically have babies. Yay. I have a couple of babies. That's hard work. I don't know that I would choose that as my purpose of life, all right? It's just hard. I like my kids, don't get me wrong, but it's hard. Life, you just come up to it and say, life is simply biological. I'm going to eat, sleep, and reproduce. It's only about creating more life. It's an endless cycle of meaninglessness, right? You just got to keep going. Well, what's the point of that? That doesn't give meaning to anyone. You're just increasing someone else's pain. Poor kids, you know? We can't make up a purpose by saying it's about more people. Another made-up purpose is to just search for meaning. My purpose in life is to discover the purpose in life, right? No, that doesn't work either. That's doublespeak. You can't do that. My purpose is to find purpose. Well, if there is no purpose to begin with, you can't get there, right? A plus A does not equal B. It equals something else, right? It doesn't work that way. You're going to wander around. This is the people that always say, well, what's the meaning of life? Well, I'm into, politics. I'm a politician. I really like politics and elections, like analyzing all that stuff, and I always watch the same news channels, so I know exactly what to think, or what other people think, whatever your thing is. Or I'm into, something else. I'm into sports, it's all about the Texans. I love the Texans, everything this. I love the Astros, I'm just all about this, and I have season tickets, and I'm just always there for that. Or I'm into collecting something, this is my thing. Or I'm into the music thing. Or I'm into making money. That's pursuing purpose, making up a purpose, to have your own purpose. The goal in life is to make something the point of life for these people, for existentialists. We were made to have something at the center of our lives. That's why we do this. Did you know that? We need something in us to be the center. Do you know what you were created to need? Oh, somebody was brave enough to say it. God. That was the easy answer. I just want to make sure you got there. God. You were created to need God. That's the point. That's what you need, all right? That's something that's supposed to be at the center of our life is God. If God is not at the center of our life, there's a void there, and we're going to try to fill it with anything else. And that thing can become an addiction for us. Whether we get addicted to our work, we get addicted to sex, money, eBay, Facebook, the Texans, it doesn't matter. That thing can become an addiction for us because it becomes a replacement God, trying to fill that hole that's designed for God with anything else. When we make up our purpose with these other things, it doesn't work. All right? Another way that we can do this, it's already up on the screen here. If you don't know the purpose of life, escape life. Don't think about it. Play video games instead, right? We just do this. Get away from it. This is called hedonism. Find some way of escape. Find pleasure to dull that pain in our life that's causing us to feel that meaninglessness. So we can go to Disneyland, woohoo, and have fun. Yay, great experiences. But it doesn't fill that hole. You have to come home. You can't live there, right? I tried once. It doesn't happen. It kicked me out, right? It could be just binging on all of your favorite directors' movies. Maybe you set up and you say, man, John Hughes is really cool and really popular, and we like him, so we're going to watch all his movies, and we just fill it with escape from these guys' movies. Some of you, John Hughes, whatever. Look it up on Google later, okay? I'm not going to explain it. All right. Binge it. Maybe it's, for some of us, it's drinking too much alcohol on purpose so that we just can't quite feel that pain. Or doing drugs. Maybe it's experimenting with sexual relationships because we just don't want to feel the pain within us, that meaninglessness within us, so we pursue it through something else. Many try to escape sex, drugs, and video games, but it doesn't work. So, if you can't escape it and you can't make it up, what's a logical solution then? That is not it. I don't even know that song, but it was a good boogie, right? So what's the logical conclusion? If you can't escape it, you can't make it up, figure it out. You gotta find it. You gotta discover it. This is what Solomon is looking for. This is where he's going with what he says here. He's going, hey, we got to figure these things out. This is probably the best option available to us because purpose can be discovered. We can find true purpose in our lives. So what is God's purpose for our life? What is it that we're supposed to discover? Ephesians 1, 3-6 says, "Blessed be the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, who has blessed us in Christ with every spiritual blessing in the heavenly places." Right? He's given us everything that we need. All right? It's already happened. This is the promise from the Bible. This is the promise. We have everything that we need, even as he chose us in him before the foundation of the world. Before he created everything, he picked things out that we needed. He knew exactly what we needed and how to give us those things that we needed. That we should be holy and blameless before him. In love, he predestined us for adoption as sons through Jesus Christ, according to the purpose of his will. So do you see what that, according to the purpose, that means this is intentional. It was no cosmic accident that God created us. It's not something to just, oh, wow, now we can discover meaning. It's already there. It was planned from before the creation for God to love us, to choose us, to pursue us. It's already there for us, to the praise of his glorious grace. And it's always for the glory of God, with which he has blessed us in the beloved. All right? So here's what God said. He made you intentionally from the beginnings so that you could be part of the family. Cool, huh? I want to be part of the family. I want to be connected. Now, some of us, our families going up are broken, and I get that. But the ideal family is what we're looking at here. This is my ideal family, I think. Happy children, right? And they're having fun. Sun's set. They're outside. It's not so cold. It's great. So what's the purpose of life? Is to be a part of God's family. He made you to have a relationship with you. He made you so he could love you and so that he could be loved back by you. All right? If you miss this, then you miss the whole point of life here on earth. God put you on this earth so that he could have a relationship with you, so that you could learn to love him back. He wants you to be a part of his family. Sounds great, right? Now, some of you will say, well, isn't everybody part of God's family? No, not everybody is part of God's family. Isn't everybody a child of God? I thought that's what the preacher said once. No, not everybody is a child of God. Everybody is created by God. Everybody is loved by God. But everybody is not a child of God. You only become a child of God when you say, God, I want to be part of your family. All right? So how do you get to be part of his family? There's only one way to do this. There's only one way to join the family. Ready? It's faith. It's trust. Jesus has given us an invitation. Hey, would you like to be a part? And we say, yes, I would like to be part of that family. It's not checking out intellectually. It's not saying, hey, all this other stuff doesn't make sense. It's just saying, hey, you know what? This makes sense to me that Jesus wants us to be a part of the family. And we take that step. We accept it. We say, yes, I will be a part of that family. So we say, God, forgive me. I want to be a part of your family. I trust you to make me a part of that. We trust him. Paul said in Ephesians, it says, in him we have redemption through his blood. We're made part of his family by the blood of Jesus. Right? Because Jesus' sacrifice for us, we can now be restored to the relationship with Jesus. The forgiveness of our trespasses. We've sinned against God. We can be forgiven because of what Jesus has done. According to the riches of his grace, he's lavished his grace upon us in all wisdom and insight, making known to us the mystery of his will according to his purpose, which he set forth in Christ as a plan for the fullness of time to unite all things in him. It's a big, long phrase right there. You understand what happened there? His plan was to send Jesus to die for us from the beginning so that for eternity we can have a relationship with him. Things in heaven, things in earth. All of us can be restored. All of us can be a part. History is moving towards a climax. There will be a penultimate event when Jesus returns. That's the penultimate event. And that will be the end of the main story of the life here. But anybody, do you realize, I'm an English major, so I just assume this and realize that you may not know this. At the end, when you have a climax in a book, did your teacher ever tell you what happens after the climax? Do you just end your story? They came together and they hugged and they were restored. And if you left a story there, all of you would not buy that book, I guarantee you, right? What happens next? There's a resolution, right? They have to fill in the rest of the blanks. Here's how they lived. Here's what happily ever after looks like. And there's still part of that story there. That's still part of what's going on there. There's a grand scheme, a destiny for us. When Christ returns, we've become a part of the family, and we're moving towards this grand scheme of Christ's return. and then a destiny from there on out to live with Christ forever. Life is not a circle. It doesn't go around and around. We don't die and come back later on as something else, a pig or something. That's not how it works. We're moving forward. Life is not a circle. It's linear. Life is moving toward a focus, towards a purpose. The purpose is Jesus will come back and he will put God's family completely back together. That's what the fullness of time means. That's what he says, to unite all things in him forever at the fullness of time. Eternity is what we're looking at, guys. This is a long view of things. You may invest in the stock market. They always tell me when I start talking about stock market stuff, which is completely not my thing. You know, he said it's my thing. That's not my thing. But every time I've talked about it, everybody's like, look, if you invest in the stock market, don't look for short-term gains. You have to look for the long term. Right? Okay, if you say so, whatever. You know, you're the financial advisor. That's why I pay you, so I don't know. Right? We have to look at this. We look at life with a long-term view. We can't ever look at the thing that's right here in our face and make all our decisions based on the circumstance that's most overwhelming and most pressing to us right then. We have to look long-term to the fact that we are part of the family. We're asked to be part of the family from now on until eternity. Life now is preparation for eternity. Here's what Solomon said in Ecclesiastes 3, about a couple of chapters later in his book. He says, "He has made everything beautiful in its time. Also, he has put eternity into man's heart, yet so that he cannot find out what God has done from the beginning to the end." Right? He's put eternity in our hearts so that we're looking for that ultimate destiny. That's what God has left us for. That's what we were created to do. We were made for eternity. God put you on this earth for a reason, to prepare you for what's coming up. So, how do we prepare? If our purpose is eternal, to be a part of God's family, how do we prepare? How do we use our life to prepare for eternity? I'm glad you asked. I have some suggestions, all right? Right? First one, get to know Jesus. Remember, not everyone is a child of God, just those who receive him into their lives. God wants to establish a relationship with you right now. So how do you establish a relationship with God? Well, it's the same as you would anyone else. I'm married. That's a good thing, right? You know, some of you, that's a surprise. It's okay. Comic book nerd, I understand. I get it. But I've been married for a long time now, and I like my wife very much, but she would not have given me the time of day if I had not first spent time with her. Just hang out. You know, we would go to McDonald's about once a week, and she would pay because I was broke, and we would eat. It was great. Didn't even realize we were dating. It was wonderful, right? We spent time. What did we do when we hung out at McDonald's? Besides eat, we talked. We talked. So we spent time, we talked, and we listened. Tell me about your family. Tell me about this. You know, how did you do this growing up? You know, that's how you do this with God. That's how you get to know God. You spend time with him. You talk to him. You listen to him. How you do that? That's what the Bible is for. It helps us to know that kind of thing. It tells us the story of God, what God's message to us is. Spend time reading, spend time praying, just practice it. It feels weird. Just if you're really worried about prayer, just go hide in your closet for 5 minutes and just say, okay, God, this is really strange. He told me to pray in here with you, so try it, see what happens. And then take the time to listen. That's how you develop a relationship with God. So get to know Jesus. That's one way to prepare for eternity. The second way to do that is to use your time in view of eternity. Time is our most precious resource. We all get the same amount. All right? You get 168 hours every week, and that's far more important than money or anything else. You can always get more money. You can never get more time. In life, you can't make time. You can't borrow time, and you can't save time, even though all those things on Lifehacker say you can. It doesn't work. I spend so much time on Lifehacker that I'm losing the time they say they would save me. I just realized that. Anyway, you can only use time. And if you don't learn to manage your time well, you cannot manage anything else in your life because time is your life. One of Satan's strategies is to get you so busy doing unimportant things that you don't have time for the important things in life. You don't spend any time preparing for eternity. You get too busy caught up on your newest, app game, whatever it is. I am playing Spider-Man now. No. Several years back, 2 teenagers wrote a book about their decision to do hard things. Do hard things. Alex and Brett Harris told their fellow teenagers 6 years ago, they said, do hard things. Get up early, Step out of your comfort zone. Do more than what's required. Find a cause. Be faithful. Go against the crowd. Be better than your culture expects. The Harris twins, then 18, were leading by example. They worked through the summer to finish their homeschool high school at 16, then clerked with the Alabama Supreme Court. They organized a statewide grassroots political campaign. They started a blog coined the Revolution movement. The website has more than 40 million page views. They wrote a book, which has sold 470,000 copies, and they spoke at conferences. And then they turned 20. But that didn't slow them down. The twins enrolled at Patrick Henry College, took first place in the Moot Court Nationals, and wrote another book. They dated and married their wives, cared for and buried their mother, and chose directions for their careers. They just decided to be obedient to what God said to do hard things, to do the things that God had told them to do instead of wasting time on all the other stuff. I read a little bit of an interview with them, and they're like, yeah, it was weird at first because we just realized all of our friends were playing video games, and we decided that that just wasn't for us, that we needed to do things that mattered. And they're seeking to do an impact. It's really hard for us to find this kind of determination if we don't have an understanding of the purpose of our life. What's the purpose of our life? To have a relationship with God, to pursue God, to do ministry for God. Acts 20:24 says, I do not count my life of any value, nor as precious to myself, if only I may finish my course and the ministry that I've received from the Lord Jesus, to testify to the gospel of the grace of God. Paul understood this. It's all about the ministry, pursuing God, so that I can proclaim the greatness of the grace of God to people around me. That's what our purpose is. Be part of the family, to proclaim the greatness of God. That's a purpose that I can get excited about. That's a purpose that makes sense because it's not about me, it's eternal. It begins to think about eternity as the most important thing. So we use our time in view of eternity. The next thing we can do is use our talents in view of eternity, the things that we're capable of doing. When you get to heaven, what are you going to do? Some of you are like, I got my harp and my bonbons and my fluffy wings. Who cares? I got it. I'm in. That's it. That's not how it works. That's what angels do, I guess. They get to eat the bonbons. We don't get to be angels in heaven. We get to be people in heaven. Angels are angels. People are people. God has plans for you to serve in heaven. There's going to be things for you to do in heaven. Enjoyable things for you to do to serve God in heaven. Yes, this is great news. This is wonderful for us. We actually don't have to just sit around and waste our time. There's things that we can prepare for. We get to serve God from now until through eternity. Right now, He's giving you time to practice serving. Why would God give you a place of serious service in eternity if you've done nothing in the world but live for yourself? Yeah, think about that. It's all about you here. What do you got to do there? We have to practice now. You're not going to take any of the stuff that you're accumulating with you. It's not going to happen. You don't get to take your money with you to heaven. You don't get to take that nice car with you, or your boat, or your house. You don't get that stuff. Or your shoes. Some of you are like shoes freaks, I know some of you people, but you don't get to take all that stuff with you. You only get to take your character, your skills, your attitudes, the thing that God has placed in your life. And so God wants you to serve Him. On December 7th, which is in a couple of weeks, we have our next Discovering Oak Creek class. It is chock full of information about our church and some steps that you can take to get started serving right now. Ways that you can plug in here to begin to serve, to begin to practice serving, right? It is hugely important to be plugged in there. One of the ministries that we will tell you about there, and I'm going to tell you about now because I get to, is our kids ministry, Oak Creek Kids. It is probably, in my opinion, the most vital area of ministry at Oak Creek, and here's why. From this book, Too Small to Ignore. What makes all of this children's ministry, what makes children's ministry so urgent is that missiological research indicates that almost 2/3 of the people who give their lives to Christ do so before the age of 18, all right? In other words, if you line up 20 Christians and 13 of them will have accepted Christ as their Savior while a child or youth, all right? It's important to reach kids. In fact, researchers tell us that if people have not accepted Christ by age 21, the probability that they ever will is only 23%. Yet we spend a pittance on the more open and strategic part of the harvest. We spend too much time and energy on adults, when what goes on over there is much more important to the ministry of Christ. You're like, man, he's offending me today. Good, I don't care. It's fine. I'm associate pastor. I don't get to preach all that often, so I just save it up for every now and then, right? Oak Creek is growing. I don't know if you've noticed that. I mean, we've had to keep putting out more chairs. We had to buy more chairs so that we could all have nice chairs to sit in. We're continuing to grow, continuing to fill up places like this. As we continue to grow, we're going to have to start talking about having more than one service. We're already beginning some of those discussions. What would that look like? What are the things that we need if we have more than one service on a Sunday morning? And one of the things, and this pertains to kids ministry, is if we do multiple services, we're going to need multiple people, more people to help serve kids, help to reach children with the gospel message. We will need exactly 22 more people. I wrote it down so I would know. 22 of you need to help me out. And the way we work in kids ministry, you work for a month, you're off for a month, all right? But when we move to 2 services, I'm going to need 22 more people to help out with that. And you would only have to work for a month at a time. To build this base up, we need your help because, background checks and all that stuff. If you're interested in that kind of thing, there are some applications back here on this table by the tree, by this tree, not the coffee tree, this tree, all right? And someone will be back there and give you an application, help you fill out. If you're interested in kids ministry, back here, they'll ask questions, answer them, whatever else you need for that. We need your help so that we can continue to grow, so that we can continue to impact the people of League City, continue to reach people around us. We have to do that. We have to use our talents in view of eternity, right? Whatever it is that God has called you to, we need to use that and to pursue those things so that God's name can be proclaimed to more and more people. It's vitally important. And then another thing to do, to pursue eternity, to think about the purpose of our life, is to use your treasure in view of eternity. This is the last part of this, all right? Here's a for instance I heard from another pastor. He said, let's suppose that Congress passed a law that sometime in the next 12 months, the Japanese yen would become the official American currency. No longer would we use dollars, but everybody would have to use yen to buy or sell anything. Since the dollar would be worthless after the exchange date, to make it fair to everybody, nobody would know the exact date of conversion. Sounds like a great economic policy, right? Until he grates on my, anyway. So we just know that sometime in the next 12 months, all of a sudden you'd have to start using yen to buy and sell, and all of a sudden dollars are worthless. If you knew that there was going to come in the next 12 months, but you didn't know when, what would your strategy be? Well, if you're wise, this pastor says, what would you do is take most of your American currency and immediately convert it into Japanese yen so you wouldn't be caught with the worthless dollars after that date. Knowing that they were going to be worthless, you would take most of what you got and immediately convert it. You would only hold on to enough American dollars to meet your daily needs, because on the exchange date, everything that was still left in dollars wouldn't amount to anything. This pastor continued, he said, Jesus says, one day there's going to be an exchange day on your life. You are going to die. Only a fool would go through life unprepared for something they know is inevitable. In America, the mortality rate is 100%. Everyone in this room is terminal. We're all going to die. It's just a matter of time. There will be an exchange date. When that date comes, the wealth that we leave on earth is going to be worthless to us. So right now, we need to begin to store up our treasure in heaven. Right now. How do we do that? In Timothy, Paul said, you are to do good, to be rich in good works, to be generous and ready to share, thus storing up treasure for themselves as a good foundation for the future, so that they may take hold of that which is truly life. It's about the future. Investing in proclaiming the gospel of Jesus. The best investment strategy for what you have now, the best way to continue to pursue purpose with your stuff, is to take your money and use it to help people to get into heaven. The best. So every time you give to a missionary, good investment. All right? Every time you give to some ministry that's proclaiming Jesus, whether it's a radio, or a TV show, good investment. Every time you give to help purchase a tent for Grace Bible Church in Haiti, good investment. How much more you need? $1,100 is all that's left. We can get them a tent so they can have worship services in Haiti during the rainy season. Right? Every time you commit to help Oak Creek Bible Church, to build a building, to be a home base for us to reach the people around us, those kind of things are a good investment. Anything you do to help people to get into heaven with your money is a good investment. On November 23rd, just a couple of weeks from now, we're going to have our Commitment Sunday. And the leadership here at Oak Creek, which I'm a part of, will without shame say, give as much as you can, commit as much as you can, sacrifice as much as you can. Because the exchange date is coming. So for your own good, be ready. And don't go home thinking that, well, the guy next to me will take care of it. Because that's not about it. It's not about them. We're talking about you. You can leave service. I can leave giving to those other people. We each have a responsibility. We each must grow. One of our things throughout this Building to Grow campaign, one of our promises was to help you to grow. Our purpose was to help you to grow spiritually. And so we're challenging you to grow spiritually by trusting Jesus, by investing what you have, by living your life on purpose. So how are you doing? How's you going to rate yourself? On a scale of 0 to 100, give you a 100-point grade, how are you doing in investing your time? How are you doing in investing your talents? How are you doing in investing your treasures? Solomon's conclusion after all of his searching, we already read it, read it again. The end of the matter, all has been heard. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. For God will bring every deed into judgment with every secret thing, whether good or evil. Fear God and keep his commandments. This is the whole duty of man. We were made on purpose, for a purpose, to know God and to make him known. May we be wise, use as much as we can of whatever we have to prepare for eternity. Let me pray for us. God, you are great, and you have blessed us with so much. Not just our stuff, but just with life and health and relationships. God, thank you for those blessings. God, teach us to use those blessings for the benefit of proclaiming your greatness, for the purpose of eternity, and not just for ourselves. God, we trust you. We know that you have big plans for us. Just help us to follow you and pursue you in each and every part of our lives. In your name we pray.